Welcome, everyone. So glad you're joining us for today's Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a question that, honestly, so many students and early career professionals ask themselves in those quiet, reflective moments. What if I think I'm overly sensitive? Look, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by a super loud environment, or maybe found yourself deeply affected by just a passing comment from a coworker, you are definitely not alone. It's incredibly common, and as we're going to see today, it is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of.
Okay, let's dive into this. Am I too sensitive? Seriously, how many times have you asked yourself that exact question? Or, maybe worse, how many times has someone else told you that you are? It's a label that gets thrown around a lot. But here's the thing. Psychological research validates that having these really strong emotional reactions is a very real, completely normal human experience. We aren't here to judge that feeling. Instead, we want to understand the mechanics behind it and really figure out how to navigate it in a way that actually serves you best.
So there are a few common triggers that make people apply this too sensitive label to themselves. Picture getting a heavily marked up essay back from a professor. Instead of seeing it as just constructive feedback, you feel deeply, personally hurt by it. Or maybe you spend hours agonizing over a slightly awkward conversation by the coffee machine at work. Or you just find it really hard to bounce back after a minor setback. A lot of students describe themselves using this exact language. But here is the critical shift in perspective we need to make right now. This is not a flaw. It is absolutely not a glitch in your system. It's simply one specific way of responding to the world around you.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can completely flip the script on sensitivity from a weakness to a powerful asset. We so often operate under this negative assumption that sensitivity is a perceived flaw, right? But the hidden reality is quite different. Being sensitive usually means you're just highly attuned to your environment. You're the one who notices the tiny details in a text, you pick up on the subtle emotions of the people in the room, and you spot changes that literally bypass everyone else. You aren't broken, your sensors are just dialed up.
And because your sensors are dialed up like that, you actually possess some incredible hidden strengths. Think about it. Being able to effortlessly read the room. That makes you a highly empathetic leader. It naturally fosters deep, loyal relationships. And noticing those subtle details that everyone else misses. That is the exact fuel you need for high-level problem-solving and creativity. Seriously, when we look at the data on top performers, this high level of attunement equips you with incredible superpowers for both your personal and professional life.
But to be totally objective here, there's a pivot point we have to acknowledge. While this trait is an amazing strength, there are absolutely times when taking in so much emotional data causes genuine distress. When it makes it difficult to study for your exams or focus on a big project at work, or even just interact comfortably with your peers, well, then it becomes a hurdle. And that is exactly why the research suggests we need to develop smart, practical strategies to manage those intense reactions.
To manage this, psychologists point to something called the response gap. It's kind of like a giant puzzle. Think of the inciting event, say a canceled plan or a surprisingly low grade, as the initial storm cloud. That's what happens. Then, on the other side, there's how we respond, our subsequent behavior and actions. The amazing thing is, there's a tangible space between that event and your action. The psychological goal isn't to magically change the event itself. We can't do that. The goal is to widen and manage that critical space in between.
So the crucial point is this. We cannot always control that first emotional reaction. The sudden sting of rejection, that immediate rush of anxiety. Look, that is automatic nervous system stuff. Please don't beat yourself up for feeling it. But, and this is the truly empowering part, you absolutely can learn to manage what you do next. You have complete control over the gap following your initial reaction.
And this brings us to a really critical definition: psychological resilience. I think a lot of people get this wrong. Resilience isn't about becoming hardened or somehow forcing yourself to be less sensitive. Not at all. It is simply about recovering more quickly and responding more effectively over time. The goal of this explainer, and really the whole goal of managing your well-being, is not to kill your sensitivity. The goal is just to train your mind to bounce back faster, so you can keep moving forward. To start building that resilience, we really need a fundamental mindset shift. Usually, when things get tough, our first instinct is to ask ourselves, how can I stop being so sensitive? I highly recommend throwing that question right out the window. Instead of a question rooted in self-judgment, we need to ask a new, actionable question. What can I do when I feel overwhelmed? Asking it this way shifts the brain right into practical problem-solving mode. Let's move to and see how this builds, because by shifting that mindset, we can immediately apply small, effective strategies to widen our response gap. Number 1, physically take a short break. Just step away from the desk or the screen to reset your nervous system. Number 2, talk to someone you trust. Externalizing the feeling really strips it of its power. And number 3, write down your thoughts. Getting the emotions out of your head and onto paper helps clearly separate the facts from the feelings. Small steps, but a massive difference.
And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most powerful mindset shifts you can possibly adopt for your career and your studies. Feedback is about your work rather than your worth. When you receive a critique, your sensitive brain might immediately signal a red alert, telling you that you're fundamentally inadequate. Use this mantra to reframe that criticism. Remember, they're evaluating the essay, the code, or the project. They are absolutely not evaluating your value as a human being.
It's also super important to remember the psychological reality here. Resilience is a learned skill. It is not a genetic lottery. It's not something you're just simply born with or without. It's a muscle that gets strengthened through practice. The sensitivity you feel today does not define your entire future. As you gain more life experience, more university experience, and more professional experience, your confidence is naturally going to grow, and navigating these feelings will become so much more automatic.
Finally, we have to completely normalize asking for help. If you find that your emotions are consistently affecting your daily life, your studies, or just your general well-being, reaching out for support is a sign of immense strength, not weakness. Whether that means grabbing a coffee with a trusted teacher or mentor, talking to a good friend, or booking time with a professional counselor, you absolutely do not have to face these challenges alone. It takes real courage to stand up and say, hey, I'm overwhelmed and I need some tools.
Which leaves us with this final thought. You now know that your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a powerful engine for empathy, for detail orientation, and for creativity. You know that you can control that response gap, and that resilience is a skill you are actively building every single day. So I leave you with this. How will you use your sensitivity as a strength today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep embracing what makes you unique, and I'll see you next time.